I wanted to tackle this under four headings, basically. My first impressions and why there is such little information on the theme of this film. Why did all this happen? Why was it allowed to happen? And what can we do now? And I took the trouble of ensuring a little bit of research. I spoke to officers who were in the Military Operations Directorate on the 19th of January, 1990. And I asked them for their impressions. And I will reveal some of the things that they told me to. So mine is a very dispassionate perception from a professional soldier's angle. People have forgotten the 19th of January because it was convenient to make them forget it. No awkward questions, no investigations, no finger pointing. We were at a very confused stage of India's post-independence history in 1990. I will allude to this as we go along. There were too many things happening in 1990. Someone should ask me, where was I on that day? Was I in Kashmir? No, I was not. I was sitting at the other end of the world. I was in Jaffna. I was in Jaffna at this particular time, and I didn't even hear about this for the next 3 months. I came to know about what happened 3 months later. This was a world about Sri Lanka, about Pakistan's borders, about Siachen Glacier, the falling rupee, inflation, no leadership, and the world was all coming apart, with the Cold War having just ended. So no one was reporting with sufficient depth. We really had no idea what was hitting us. It was happening just too fast. So soon after the event, we were seeing a situation where the confidence of the separatists was supreme. They perceived Azadi was at hand. In the prevailing chaos, people were walking to and fro from the LOC. This is hardly known to people, that actually there were people on the line of control who were walking across and said, Kashmir banega Pakistan. That is the kind of messaging which was going on at that particular time. It was actually touch and go for India at that time. India came down very heavily, all guns blazing. A counter-terror and a counter-separatist campaign commenced with kinetic power as the main means. And that was the correct decision. That was the correct thing to do. From then on, it was a question of restoring order, not investigating to see what brought about that disorder. It was inconvenient to start investigating into things to see why this disorder came. Everyone was in a hurry to try and restore that disorder to order. And it has taken us 25 years to restore that order, which is one of the major reasons why all this somehow escaped us. It's not for me to give answers on how many died and how many left the valley, etc. I am no investigator. That it happened is something I wish to authentically confirm. I want to tell you that it happened, because there are many people who think nothing like this happened ever. Even a couple of years later, the telltale signs of the events of 19th January 1990 were available in the moth-eaten, derelict houses, all in a state of disrepair. Later, many of the Central Armed Police Forces organizations took over these houses. The saga of the Kashmiri Pandits was relegated to being just uncomfortable questions which no one had answers for. It is worth having a white paper on this entire period, worth having a white paper to see really what happened. One of the greatest weaknesses of our campaign in Jammu and Kashmir has been the lack of knowledge of the immediate past. No historical documents. Our soldiers do not even know where the conflict came from. They just go there, are posted there, they fight, they carry out their task and come away with no knowledge of the historicity of events there. I am one of those who went there repeatedly and kept investigating into this for my own intellectual capabilities. One of the great, people don't just, what you have to remember is that people don't just get up one day and leave their roots to go and live in some shanty camps 300 kilometers away. I mean, it makes no sense. Don't people know that there are 500,000 people sitting away from Kashmir, sitting away from their homes? It is known. But no one has ever cared to look into the depth of it as to why it has happened. They were made to leave through a campaign of fear instilled by atrocities, the very same atrocities which are seen in this film. They were afflicted, these atrocities were afflicted upon the Kashmiri Pandits by a segment of the people. But as always, it is the silent majority which gets tainted for not speaking up. And if they did speak, then not doing so loudly enough. Why did it happen? That's an important thing. I think my intervention is, this is the more important aspect. It wasn't just local reasons or traditional antipathy. It was a brewing situation in which revisionist Islam was breaking its head to the surface. In Pakistan, Zia-ul Haq outlined the Zia doctrine. The Zia doctrine, which is not a public document, believed in some of the following things. Pakistan's inability to wreak retribution against India for the loss of 1971. The necessity to fight India differently, not by the conventional route. To exploit Jammu and Kashmir people's sentiments for secession from India, a mistaken notion which Pakistan always believed in, the people's dimension. They tried it in 1947, they tried it in 1965, and they were wanting to try it once again in 1990. To use ideology to foster greater Islamic connect and sentiment for Pakistan. Zia believed this was his trump card. Zia also believed that the Kashmiri Muslims could be united far more through obscurantist ideology. Linking them to Wahhabist ideology would always obtain the support of the Saudis, the main sponsors of the Wahhabi ideology. A slow and steady campaign to Wahhabize Jammu and Kashmir's Muslim populace was necessary. But the trigger for the conflict initiation, and I always believe this is a very important part of conflict initiation. This would have to be a very big event, something which would leave India floundering and unable to respond to. This was the extermination and the expulsion of the Kashmiri Pandits to achieve a form of ethnic cleansing which would lay the Kashmir Valley open to reception of the obscurantist Islamic ideology and ensure increasing public antipathy against India and its army. Pakistan did succeed in its intent, but could not take it to the end, to the conflict termination stage. The 19th January 1990 events were set up with this particular intent. My interaction with some officers, as I was telling you, who were then serving in the Military Operations Directorate on that particular day, tells me that on 19 January 1990, India was treating, and the army was treating, and the government was treating this like a non-event. So somehow for them it had no importance. No one accorded importance because all the focus was on the Punjab militancy. Let's see the events which were happening in India at that time. On the Punjab militancy, on the Siachen Glacier 2 years before that, 1987, Pakistan had made huge efforts to try and capture the Siachen Glacier. On Sri Lanka, where 100,000 troops were sitting there, including me, all the focus was here on exercise Zarb-e-Momin, which was taking place on the borders of Punjab at that particular time. One of the biggest exercises Pakistan has ever conducted, and it was supposed to be a response to exercise brass tacks, which we had conducted in 1987. When you see this in synthesis, you realize that the attention, how well this was timed, strategically. The attention of the nation, the attention of the government, the attention of the leadership, the attention of the army, everything was somewhere else. If a strategy to handle Jammu and Kashmir and counter Pakistan had ever evolved, we would have taken stock of the genocide. But that strategy somehow never evolved because we were fighting from moment to moment for the last so many years. So why was this allowed to happen? That's the question. Why was it allowed to happen? The all-encompassing reason for India being actually stumped by the course of events was the lack of understanding of the situation in our political, security, and bureaucratic community. That genocidal events could happen as a part of a larger strategy sponsored by an adversary could not perhaps occur to this community of people, including my community of people, the army. Strategic security consciousness was not something India could boast of. We were just emerging from the chaos of Operation Pawan in Sri Lanka, from exercise brass tacks, and that which had not gone too well. 19 January 1990 for Pakistan was actually a virtually declared conflict initiation event. It was made to be like that. It was against the conventional understanding of war because this was something quite different. The beginning of a hybrid war. I hope you know that this conflict was never a conventional conflict. This conflict was a hybrid conflict. It's easy to comment on it today. At that time in 1990, no one knew what hybrid conflict was. So I would only request you to type my name on YouTube and also along with my name, write down Kashmiri Samaj. And you will come across an 11-minute clip which I spoke about when I spoke at the Kashmiri Samaj in 2019 in Delhi. It will give you some of the major reasons why India was so weak in 1989-90. I do not have the time to perhaps go into this in detail, but the issues I just want to highlight, one or two issues in this. Punjab was burning. Siachen was a priority at that particular time. The forces in the Kashmir Valley at that particular time. Today you have how many? 46 battalions of the Rashtra Rifles. You have 70 battalions of the CRPF. You have army, any number of battalions of the army. At that time, there was one single division, the Dagger Division, which I also commanded later, which was there in the valley. It was all deployed on the line of control, and it had 2 additional brigades. Somehow, the importance of this event was never highlighted within the security environment. They all thought this is a one-off event which is happening. And even the intelligence agencies perhaps could not fathom why it was happening. And that's why it was almost ignored. What have we done since then? My last bit, what have we done since then? Efforts to bring back the Kashmiri Pandits have been constantly under threat by terror groups. They continue to be. Through the calendar years, you find Nadi Marg, which is also reflected in this film very well. You've had Vandhama. You had Chitti Media against the Sikh community in 2000. I was then in Avantipur at that time, controlling operations there. So very few people care to listen to the plight of the Kashmiri Pandits or do much more about the privations that they suffer. In my individual capacity, I can tell you one thing. I have been advising the Kashmiri Samaj and different Kashmiri Pandit organizations for the last 10 years from a strategic angle. And one of the things which I have always told them about is that they will not be able to return to Kashmir in a hurry. The situation in Kashmir will return to normal, but it will not be conducive to the security that we are looking for them. And I am the last one who wants to see encampments with Kashmiri Pandits located in them. What I have advised them is make sure that you retain your roots and you retain your culture. You'll be happy to know at least 2 major yatras, the Kongvatan Yatra and the Gangabal Yatra. 2 yatras were the ones which the Kashmiri Pandits did commence at my behest, and I was the one who made sure that the army supported them completely and continues to support them today. Also, the Sharda Yatra. I'm a member of the Sharda Committee, the Save Sharda Committee. And I can assure you, we are working very hard on this. We are in touch with Muzaffarabad University. The Supreme Court of Pakistan has even passed a direction, a judgment to say that the shrine needs to be restored, and work on that shrine, restoration of the shrine has also happened. There are pujas taking place every year at Tangdhar and at Keren, which are supported by the army. Each year I write to the army to make sure that these yatras and these pujas are supported. This is what is very important, and it must continue, because you cannot afford to allow the Kashmiri Pandit culture to die down. I am very confident that in the near future, with the support of the government probably bringing in greater focus or development, etc., we will be able to stabilize Jammu and Kashmir. But Jammu and Kashmir is just too strategically important, with too many eyes of too many adversities all the time on it. This is something that we will have to take care of. I will be ready to answer any questions which are there, but I do want to say at the end that this movie has actually moved my heart tremendously. I only want to leave one message at the end. You know, it's very important to awaken conscience. It's so important to awaken conscience. At the same time, it's very important to send a message for the future. I would have been the happiest if I had seen in the film a message in the beginning and a message at the end. And that message I have drafted. This film is all about a tragic event in post-independence history of India, which needed to be told and remembered. Yet, we as filmmakers also convey that we pray that such an event never again occurs with any community or people in India in the future.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. धन्यवाद, नमस्कार.